Well, we haven't always had our best days.
Yeah, some of the days that are supposed to be the most celebrated, there's a lot of pressure on them, and so they end up being the worst.
Yeah, there is pressure on holidays.
Yeah.
Like there's pressure on Halloween. You got to dress up epic.
Right.
You got to go trick or treating and get a
Yeah.
bunch of candy.
Yeah.
And then if you are a religious, super religious Christian, there's
Yeah.
lots of pressure. It's like you better not dress up.
Right.
You better not go trick or treating. It's
Only
the
going
devil's
to
birthday.
Harvest nights.
Yeah, harvest nights.
Remember, no
and I'm
fear
like,
nights.
when's the last time, I did not know the devil had a birthday.
Yeah.
Like, was he born on Halloween? Anyways, then there's that. And then I was like, I didn't get an invite. Which shows that I am a believer.
Yeah, that's why.
If I got an invite, then I should worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is not in his invite book. It's in the Lamb's book. Come on, St. Peter. And then Thanksgiving and Christmas, around here, there is a lot of pressure to and maybe it's all in my head, but to make it epic, or maybe you had this really memorable moment.
Yeah.
And you have this internal pressure to relive that really special moment that was only meant for Thanksgiving 2006.
Sure.
And it's like, well, how can we recreate it? And sometimes
bring it
back to where you're like, but this is what we're talking about. This is season 8 of Behind the Scenes of Our Best Days. I'm John.
I'm Arvin.
Yeah.
It's the day before Thanksgiving.
The day before Thanksgiving.
This is coming out the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and
yeah.
So I remember, I was talking to my mom last Thanksgiving, and she was uncanning the cranberries.
Yeah.
That it just looks like a circle of
gelatinous
circle of gel. It looks like a cylinder.
Yeah.
It looks it just is so odd.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, why are we doing this? Well, this is a Thanksgiving food. I'm like, to who?
Sure.
And then she was like, well, this is what we do at Thanksgiving. And then I know I'm not throwing my mom under the bus, but
everybody has a dynamic like
everyone
this.
has a dynamic. And then my mom was like, oh, and we also have this. And I was like, why are we putting pecans in the sweet potatoes? Like, nuts to me pervert everything.
That's right.
And what I mean.
No, I know.
What I'm saying is
no, a walnut.
I love a chocolate chip cookie. If I walk up and someone's like, oh, there's nuts in this chocolate chip cookie. And I go, and I was like, that belongs in hell.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, what if we had food that we were actually thankful for?
For sure.
She did not like that.
I bet.
She hated that. And I was like, and I go, Mom, I am very grateful. And here's the thing. My mom is a great cook sometimes. And because whenever she cooks what she cooks.
Yeah, her thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, of course.
But once a year, she will try things for Thanksgiving because it's Thanksgiving.
Right.
And I'm like, Mom, you crush it at fried okra.
Totally.
Hook that fried okra up
Absolutely.
with some cornmeal and then some ranch.
Yeah.
At our house, we celebrate ranch.
Yeah.
It's the only... And then, certain types of chicken and then turkey.
Yeah.
But once you get into these odd desserts and stuff, and I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what if we had, I love Tex-Mex.
Yeah.
I love Chinese food.
Totally.
Yeah. And I was like, what if we had that for Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
And usually the response is, well, that's not what we have for Thanksgiving.
Sure.
I'm like, says who?
Yeah, no, sure.
Anyways.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I think the tough thing about being around family, especially extended family, is that you're going to be misunderstood and it's going to come from someone who might actually know a version of you. Like if you grew up with these people.
You grew up with these people.
They know a version of you.
They do.
And then they misunderstand who you are now based on all that. And it feels so frustrating.
Yeah, is it because they don't want you, they are comfortable with the version of you that they knew growing up?
Sure.
I know we would always go to Texarkana, Arkansas. Mm-hmm. That was my mom's side of the family. And I was a rather large child. Gravitationally challenged is what we will say. And then there came a point where I was like, And I eat pie today, but there was a long stint where I was like, no pie, no ice cream.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna eat,
Yeah.
like protein and stuff like that.
Sure.
And my extended family was like, John, that's not who you are. I don't know who you're trying to be. You eat rolls.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, so add more rolls to your rolls. And I was like, well, I'm doing this now. And it was like, you could have thought I was there to be I don't know, saying something atrocious.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think it's just, people have that version of you in their minds.
Sure.
And they're like, no, don't you go changing on me.
Yeah. There are a lot of things that could happen. One of them is like tall poppy syndrome, where if you...
Whoa, what is that?
It's an idea that when a poppy flower or whatever grows taller than the others, they chop it down to make it level. So it's like...
Interesting. So like crabs in a barrel.
Yeah, precisely that idea, where it's like...
We're not calling your family crabs in a barrel, but it's
you
just
might
something...
feel that way.
This is just a unique dynamic that you will be walking into probably during Thanksgiving.
The next 36 hours, if you're watching this when it comes out.
Yeah.
Well, because there are a lot... When you get to family stuff, everyone gets sensitive. Everyone feels really personal. Everyone feels really private. But I know for a fact there are plenty of people watching this that have this difficult to articulate anxiety around the next 36 to 48 hours, and it goes beyond it's heightened at holidays because that's when you're forced into the same room with these people, but it might very well just be the dynamic one might have with their family year round. They just kind of, you can afford to ignore it as you get older and your siblings get married and stuff. Our family, Thanksgiving was new to us because we had come from the Middle East. And so we adopted all the traditions and we fell in love with it. And if I'm honest, the last 10, 12 years, Thanksgiving's become my favorite holiday.
It's become your favorite holiday.
We love it because the food's fantastic. We go to like different light shows around Tulsa. There's one, I don't want to be specific to location because people watch this all over, but it's like really cool festive things.
It's in preparation for Christmas.
Yeah. The feeling is there. The cold air is good. But we've had Thanksgivings over the years where it's like, I'm curious if you've experienced this, where you're like, oh, we're the pastor's family. We have to invite people that don't have anywhere to go to our Thanksgiving. And then your house is full of strangers and you're like, all right, what do we do?
Okay, so 2 stories for that. So here at Victory, we talk about the behind the scenes of ministry. A unique thing is also, if you ever wonder what it's like having a minister's family and what that's like at Thanksgiving, you think, oh, I bet it's really Christian.
Yeah.
It could be the most volatile times. Yeah. I'm not saying that the Darties are like that, but there have been moments, in our past to where it's like, okay, people just don't see eye to eye on things. It could be everything from politics to college football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And it's like passive aggressive things said, or just someone who's in the same kitchen as you but not even saying anything. And you're like, we are related. You could say hi.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
But anyways, but that's just all families. And if you don't have that issue, you are blessed, and that is something to be thankful for.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've come to, but yes, my dad was a big inviter.
I remember that.
He was like, oh yeah, you don't have anywhere to go? Come on over to Thanksgiving. Come over to our house. Yeah. That person now changes the dynamic.
Totally.
Changes the dynamic to where I didn't want to lay down. My dad invited this person who was a missionary and their daughter. And their daughter was my age. She was very attractive at the time.
Yeah.
I was in college.
At the time.
Well, I mean,
no, I know. It's just funny.
She really went downhill after that. What? No. What I'm saying is that I have not seen her.
Sure.
And but this was like 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. I forget how old I am right now.
Real your age, super attractive.
Yeah, and usually I lay down and watch college football, and I felt like I had to sit up straight.
No, sure.
I had to have my shirt tucked in.
You like sucking in?
Yeah, no. I was sucking in the whole time. I was like, Mom, where's my corset? I was like, she has to think that I have a skinny midsection. She has to not see me.
It's so real, dude.
Yeah, and I was like,
I
was like, I can't eat a vat of cobbler.
Yeah.
Because I have to have my pinky up when I'm eating because I'm trying to impress this person.
This girl, yeah.
Okay, so there's that. But at Victory, we actually do a Thanksgiving feast.
That's awesome.
So here's the thing at Victory. We do 2 Thanksgiving feasts at our Dream Center.
Yeah.
The West Dream Center, the North Dream Center.
Yeah.
Then we do a Friendsgiving at our church, which is at all of our campuses, where we do a meal after all of the services, and we give people a turkey if they need turkey.
Beautiful.
Then on Thanksgiving Day.
Right.
Thanksgiving Day at 10 a.m. here at Victory in our cafeteria. We do a Thanksgiving for international students or anyone who does not have anyone who does not have a family.
Incredible.
Now, we would always come to that. We would be here from 10 to like 11:30 while my mom would stay back and cook. And then around 11:30 we would all go home, but we would always come here.
Beautiful.
I would come here to take pictures because they needed pictures for social media, so I was always on rotation because I didn't want to ask another photographer to come up.
Sure.
And I remember seeing the faces of these people,
it's
and they were sitting together and enjoying, and I was like, this is very special for them.
Honestly, yeah.
And it really made me convicted, and I was like,
sure.
I need to be okay with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, really, that missionary daughter, she should just have seen me, with my shirt off, just watching college football,
laying back,
just
farting, absolutely,
laying back and farting on things, farts giving. Anyway,
being yourself,
being myself.
How old were you? How old were you at the time?
22.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then now here's the flip side is that one of the most devastating moments of my life was after my divorce. Was Thanksgiving.
I bet. And there are a lot of people watching.
If you're in a divorce, because it was my first time that I spent. It was my first holiday where I spent. I was like, oh my gosh. I don't have anyone. My mom's mom was struggling in her health during that time, so she was with her. All of my siblings were at their in-laws.
Right.
So all my siblings were married. They were at their in-laws for Thanksgiving. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is... And I never experienced that.
Right, wow.
For 37 years. And that was 2019. And I remember being so sad, so depressed.
Sure.
And I went up to Victory to take pictures of the Thanksgiving feast. That we do for all those people. And while I'm sitting there and everyone is talking, I did not want people to know. So I tried to keep it a secret. So I was like, well, I got to run to Thanksgiving meal. And they're like, oh, where are you having it? And I was like, like at my mom's, like usual. Anyways, my old roommate was in town. This is a shout out to him. His name is Kyle McCalman.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And he had married Brenda Miranda. So Kyle and Brenda. This was a moment where they go, hey, I hope you're doing well. We know usually holidays are tough for people who are divorced.
Wow, good for them.
They go, what are you doing?
Right.
And I was like, this was at 11:30 a.m. I go, nothing actually.
Right. Wow.
And I was like, my kids are with their mom and my siblings, and they go, come over to our house. They didn't even live in Tulsa. They were in Tulsa.
Amazing.
For their extended families.
Wow.
I went over, and while they were praying, I just began, and they're Puerto Rican family, so we had Puerto Rican food.
Love it.
It was the best thing. I get emotional thinking about it. It was the best Thanksgiving I'd ever been to because I was like, this is what it means to be thankful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was looking around. I was like, none of my family is here. But these people took me in.
Beautiful.
I'm eating Puerto Rican food.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I was like, this is so special.
Absolutely.
I never thought I would be here.
Absolutely.
And I had to prepare, as Christmas was coming up, I was like, okay, I need to be a little bit more prepared for that. And some of you in here, you have friends or family members that that are alone on the holidays, and that is
tough.
That is so devastating. Now, some people don't mind it. Some people, it has become But if it's your first one, it is just knowledgeable of that and just reaching out to them and being like, hey, do you have somewhere?
Absolutely.
But anyways, on the flip side is at the Thanksgiving meal, I was joking around and I made a politic joke.
Oh, nice.
And it was the opposite of what they believed.
Sure.
That was awkward because they were like, "You are wrong."
Amazing.
That the grandmother who I didn't really interact with, that didn't speak very good English, she goes, "You," pointed at me. Her finger was like 3 inches from my face. She goes, "You are wrong." And I go, and there was 17 people there, and they were like, yeah. And I was like,
oh, tough.
I leaned over to my roommate and I was like, I'm not going to make jokes anymore.
Yeah.
I am dumb. So I'm going to crawl under this couch and die.
Then you lay on the couch.
Then I lay on the couch, take off my shirt, and I go, bum, bada, bing, bong, bing, bing, bum. And but anyways, so Thanksgiving is unique with family.
Yeah.
And, it is, I think that, and what, we just recently finished with a big vote of who's going to win.
Sure.
Trump or Kamala. Mm-hmm. And, that was also a dividing factor for people.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure that there's going to be people who are on both sides that just get in arguments during,
Yeah. So that might be helpful for viewers to share. Like, leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
If it goes there, turn it humorous. There are certain things that growing up in a pastor's family, instinctually learned that as I get an adult,
instinctual lessons.
Yeah.
Take us through that. Instinctual lessons.
Just like how to surf in a conversation versus getting stuck in the weeds. Like if you already know pretty much who does and doesn't agree with you on certain matters, getting into an argument never goes well. If you lose the argument,
you never convince them.
No.
At the end of an argument, rarely does someone go, "You know what? Mm-hmm. I'm glad we had this. Yeah. I now see it your way."
Precisely. Yeah. And even if you win, you lose. Because the point there...
Okay, that's the point. Hold on. Say that again, Arvin.
Even if you win the argument, you lose the day.
Okay.
Yeah. So it might be really helpful instead if you're preparing, this is coming out Wednesday before Thanksgiving, or even if you listen to this later on, this exercise right here is helpful year round. I do it often. Typically, I do it when I'm in the shower. I'm just thinking. Pretend that person has passed.
Oh.
Just pretend for a second.
That they have died.
Yeah. Go, whoever they may be. And even the people you're not going to argue with. I just think go down the line, make a list of people in your family or your friends, pretend that person's gone and you don't get to see them this Thanksgiving. I have friends who, I have one friend who, this is his first Thanksgiving without his dad. And I'm thinking about him a lot. And gonna keep checking in and talking and whatever. And there's no way I'm gonna make it better. But pretend that person's gone for a second.
Yeah.
And then remember that they're not. And that will be gratitude. And that will be like, okay, wow. So if you approach the room with that in mind, like not just like, oh, they're gone and I'm, the jokey, like, oh, I'd be happy if this uncle was gone or whatever. Yeah. It's like, no. Think about your aunt and your cousins losing their dad. Yeah. Whoever it is that you're upset with or whatever you could get into an argument, whoever you disagree with, imagine them gone completely.
You're not imagining how they gone.
No.
Okay, good.
And if you go there, then
you're an evil person.
Yeah. Exactly. You should probably talk to a licensed professional.
Yes.
Absolutely. We have some people we could recommend if you want. But all I have to say, that's a fun exercise, not a fun, but it's like a necessary exercise for me.
So that way you are looking at people, I keep interrupting you because that way you are viewing people as, oh my goodness, I get to be in their presence.
Yeah, they're here. Their families are good. Like you can, especially if you're younger, you get annoyed by the amount of kids you might be around. I remember being younger at these events, I'd be so upset that all the other kids are involved.
Yeah.
And it was annoying and they were bothering me. They were playing with my toys. I remember being so upset. And then the thought of like, no, they're here. It's okay that they're here. There's nothing that's gonna go haywire, So doing that practice of like, imagine this person's not here and then they're here. Let that gratitude, that'll create real gratitude for you.
That is. And here's some things to also look out for. Is anyone who is fishing for tea, like someone's like, hey, so what's the deal with so-and-so and and his wife
Sure.
and the postman and you're like,
yeah.
you know what? I don't know.
Yeah.
So this is something that I have, like, usually if it is someone who is a believer, like they go, hey, I'm a follower of Jesus, and I go, okay. Because I used to be a person of the tea.
Yeah.
Which means tea just means gossip.
Right.
And basically, like, it's not going to add anything to your life, regardless what drama is going on.
Yeah.
To me, if it's celebrity, like if it's like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, that's different because I don't feel a personal connection to them.
Yeah, shout out. Thanks for watching, guys.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Kels. Thanks, Swifties. But if it's someone you have a connection to, I think that is where sometimes people care. Like, people could care less if there's drama that happens with Whoopi Goldberg and women on The View. But if something happens with their cousin who's not famous, they have a personal connection, and so they're like, "Ooh, I like this tea." You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like it's more juicy if you have a personal connection, or if it affects you somehow. But you know, this is something that my dad was just a big shutter down of gossiping.
Sure, yeah.
Like, to the point to where it was annoying. I was like, Dad, let's gossip a little. I feel like it's it's a little sin, you know? But my dad would always be like, it's a pretty day, it's a pretty day.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, it's raining. And we were like, anyone who was a stranger would be like, it's raining outside.
Yeah.
I go, my dad says that, and it means to change the subject.
Change the subject, yeah.
You know, if it got inappropriate or if it was gossipy.
Yeah.
But one thing that yesterday someone was texting me, asking me about some tea of someone.
Sure.
And I go, I don't know. I hope everything is going to be okay.
Beautiful.
One thing I've learned is that if I hear anything, I usually pray for those people right then and
So
there so I
good.
don't forget.
So
And the
smart.
person responded being like, oh, yeah, I'm totally going to pray.
Right.
And I go, yeah.
Yeah.
And then not that I was being patronizing, and if that person listens to this podcast, they know it's them.
Yeah.
But I'm like, and not even to be a butthead, but I'm like, what is this going to add to our life?
Yeah, nothing good.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And I've been gossiped about, and I know how much it stinks.
Yeah.
And so whenever I'm like, you know, I don't know, and even if I do know, you know, I don't really understand. I don't know both sides of the story. I hope everything's going to be okay for them. One thing I've learned is that whenever I hear something, I should immediately pray for them. So let's pray for them. And immediately, that just kills the vibe. It kills the vibe of most gossiping
The tea
people.
gets cold real fast.
People go, yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's funny. I think, you know, I've said this before, is that, you know, I remember the progression of Thanksgiving tables. Like, usually the kids ate on card tables. Did you guys ever have those card tables that folded out?
I've seen them, yeah.
Yeah, that you can literally cut your finger off if you don't close it correctly at the bottom.
Yeah.
But like, you know, the card tables, and then the grown-up table was over there.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you had like a teenager table. There was like a kids, teenagers,
Sure.
and that way everyone could eat.
Yeah.
And, you know, you were talking about as we evolve and change. You know, I think that COVID forced everyone to look internally, and people who are believers and really pursuing God, I feel like they continue to look internally, which means they're more aware of themselves, which means that they're probably invested into personal growth. And if you're invested into personal growth, chances are that the next time you see people at a Thanksgiving meal is that you have probably evolved as a person.
Yeah, wow.
And, you know, most people are like, yes, change is good unless it affects them. So here's the thing. If you begin to evolve and you're close with someone, what happens is that not only are you changing, you are forcing them to change the way that they think about you. And most people are not asking for that change.
Right, they don't like that. Yeah.
And so what you feel is you begin to feel a drift.
Sure.
Like a space. And it doesn't mean that anyone is in the wrong. You know, sometimes people, they flesh it out by being weird or passive aggressive or saying small things that you're like, that was weird. Why did they say that?
Yeah.
But it's just them learning how to cope subconsciously
Right.
with this version that you're like, nope, this is who I am now.
Right.
And so, anyways, that is something that has become a reoccurring thing in my life. I'm not saying I'm the personal growth king, but I've just really, really been trying to evolve as a person.
Yeah.
Because, that's what I want in my life.
Right.
And so usually whenever there's someone who is close with me and they're like, remember when we used to always, or, oh, let's do this because we always do this. I've had to be like, really pray on how to respond to those people.
Sure.
Because I'm like, well, I'm not able to do that this time. Like for instance, you and me, after a production, you and me would go on trips.
Yeah.
Like, guys, after productions, there was nothing more rewarding than going on a trip with Arvin and some friends and talking about how the production went.
Right.
And then there was a moment in which you were like, hey, you're married to Daniela.
Daniela. Yeah.
And there was a moment where you were like, hey, Daniela just needs me home.
Yeah, especially after that long time period of being at the church.
At the church for so long.
Yeah, for sure.
And in that moment, it was like, oh, that's right. This is not just because something is a tradition doesn't mean it's going to be going on for forever.
Sure.
And I know we're going to go on a trip at some point before we die.
Sure, yeah.
and if not, it's also okay.
Sure, yeah.
But just because it's a tradition doesn't mean that you have to like hold it by its throat and force it to happen.
Right.
And I only bring up that example is because some people hold that tradition over you, over your personality.
Sure, that's right.
Over your perspective.
Yeah.
How you function and how you operate in life.
Yeah.
And what if you're like, I'm ready to grow out of that?
Right, absolutely. I think it really helps to do humor, especially if someone's trying to get things, like you mentioned tea and gossip and stuff. Make it funny. If you have the sense of identity and security, then make it funny about you. Or just play the curiosity. Like, ask questions. And sometimes
Arvin is great at doing this.
It gets really helpful if a person is talking about something a little bit off center. If you ask them very, very basic questions, it kind of heightens the weirdness of it, and they go, you know what I mean. And so they kind of shrink back. But
so hold on. Give me an example.
I mean, if someone's talking about, hey, did you hear about this person, that person? And be like, I didn't. What did you hear? And now it's back on them, and they go, I thought maybe
heard this.
You go, oh yeah, who told you that? If you just make everything a question, it's like they're gonna either have to triple down on.
They're gonna have to double down on. I am talking about this person in a negative way.
It takes the hintiness, the hesitance out of it, and then you can move on and go, hey, here's a. Honestly, I've found, as cliche as it is, triple down on the cliches. What are you thankful for? Great question. No matter how many times you answer it, it's a great question.
Yeah.
Another question I thought of while you were talking is, how have you evolved since last Thanksgiving? Just ask someone that. Just go,
That's good.
Even, like, it could be something awesome. It could be something silly and funny. It could be something sad. It could be whatever. What's changed about you since last Thanksgiving? You know,
you're like my waistline.
What are you thankful for yourself? Not like, what have you done in the last year that you're like, man, I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah.
What are you thankful for?
No, that's so good because then people feel like you see them.
Yeah.
I feel like at Thanksgiving, most people want to know that they're still connected and loved by their family.
Right.
But if you take the if you trailblaze and you go, I'm going to go up to my family members.
Yeah.
That maybe I'm not, I feel a certain way about, and I'm going to ask those questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you grateful for? How have you evolved since last Thanksgiving? And what are you grateful that you did within the last year that wasn't done last Thanksgiving?
Sure.
Now, all of a sudden, someone's like, oh my gosh, they're asking about me. They're not talking about football or politics or their stance on this or their stance on that or quoting scripture at me.
Yeah.
They're literally wanting to know about me.
Right.
And I feel like people truly feel seen. If you asked me those questions, I would be like, I enjoyed talking to him. When in reality, Arvin was listening.
Yeah.
I was the one doing the talking.
No, but that's amazing how that works. If you take it off of like controversial stuff and make it more like you as a person, evaluate yourself. Tell me about what you're excited. What are you excited about? What happens? What do you hope if they have no good answer about? If they go, well, nothing's changed since last Thanksgiving. You can joke that, oh, well, good for you, you're consistent. Or you go, well, what would you like to see change between now and next Thanksgiving? You know, super basic questions that turn things internal versus like, because most people, they feel awkward. And so the easiest thing they can do is make fun of something else or someone else or try to challenge
or poke fun at the Macy's Day Parade.
Sure.
Which, guys, stop poking fun of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was all I have to
Macy's
say.
has had enough.
Yeah, Macy's has had enough.
Amazon has been wrecking Macy's business model for a little too long.
That's
good for them
true.
for still doing it. I don't see Amazon doing a parade.
Yeah. The Amazon.
I get on this hot soapbox.
Yeah. No, but anyways, we love the Macy's.
No, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's really, really good.
Imagine how much better every conversation would be if you were inquisitive and curious. And
sometimes, so I coach weightlifting in the afternoons.
Sure.
And there are certain days I can see it in the kids' faces. And I'm talking like, oh, shoot, there'll be 40, 50 kids.
Yeah.
And they all come in, and I usually go over the workout that's up on the board. And then we go through a dynamic warm-up, a barbell complex warm-up, and then we go, all right, now start, you know. When they come up, I go, hey, it's a great day to be alive. What a wonderful Tuesday, what a wonderful Thursday, what a wonderful, you know.
Yeah.
And I go, what are you grateful for? And I have to point, and I go, Caroline, what are you grateful for right now? Tyler, what are you grateful for? And they just say it in front of everyone, and they're like, my friends. And I go, aren't they great?
Nice.
What else are you grateful for?
Yeah.
My mom and dad.
Nice.
Yeah, your mom and dad sacrificed so much to put you here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are you grateful for?
Yeah.
And there's been times where I've done like 8 kids, and then there's been times where I've done 3.
Yeah.
It depends on the vibe.
Yeah.
And then I go, hey guys, regardless of your day, gratitude is your fuel because it's the only thing you have control over.
Right.
So let's lift weights.
Grateful to lift weights, dude.
Yeah.
You're healthy to get to lift weights.
Yeah. And so anyways, but
we should end with you answering that question. What are you grateful for this Thanksgiving?
I would say my perspective on what we talked about yesterday, not on this podcast.
Sure.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah, good.
Yesterday, guys, I've been in this, I don't want to say midlife crisis. I've just been in this enlightenment moment to where I'm like, I feel like most of my life being at Victory has been so focused on outcome, you know, productions, you know, coaching, conferences. Things are measured by deliverables. And I used to tell people my love language is results. I'm like, give me results and I feel loved. Which is not a healthy way to go about working at a church, because that's how you get burned out and you end up hating church and you blame God and blah, which is not, that's not my goal.
Sure.
But you said, now if you focus on the process, you know, you said.
So this is an idea that there's 3 things in the triangle, and I have to be honest, this is something Erwin said recently.
Erwin McManus.
Pastor in LA.
Love him. Thanks for listening, Erwin.
shout out
to Erwin.
All the. He said there's a triangle with outcome, process, and essence.
Okay, so if you're watching our podcast, we're not doing Illuminati.
No,
we're doing a triangle with our fingers.
We have it even on our board now, where we just think about it.
Okay.
Like sometimes you might want someone else's outcome, but you don't recognize like what that will make your process turn into. And then overall, your essence might not necessarily be, you know.
And so, what is your essence? Your essence is your
like
ethos.
It's the impression you leave on a person that is smart enough to look beyond what you're saying. It's the 93%, not the 7%. 7%
so
is
people are like,
verbal.
okay,
it's the body language.
It's not him selling real estate. it's how he looks when he sells real estate,
Yeah.
how he feels when he sells real
That's
estate.
a great example,
And
yeah.
how this person makes me feel when he sells me real
Yeah,
estate.
like if I came up to you and I was kind and generous and sweet and thoughtful.
And I loved my whole experience.
But then afterward, I was like, hey, also, could you give me your brother's phone number?
Oh, like Pastor Paul?
Could I get Pastor Paul's phone number from you?
And I was
You'd
like,
go,
oh.
that guy wanted this outcome, so he invented an approach and he tried to, and the essence that you're left with of me is
shady.
Yeah, you're like, oh, his kindness was a tool.
It was part of his process to get an outcome.
That's right. That's
That's
so the
dangerous.
essence that you're left with of me is like not good.
Right.
Whereas if you prioritize essence
is how you want someone else to feel.
Yeah.
And how you want to feel.
It's the reality of your motivation.
Your reality
and
of
your
your
drive.
okay,
It's like,
okay.
what's really actually going on here with this person?
Yes.
Because outcome is very binary, ones and zeros. You get what you want or you don't. Essence is everything that's nuanced in between. And process is how you get there. So if you let your essence, if you decide, I want my essence to be this, and that's the experiment we're running now, is what happens if you prioritize that. Let that inform the process and trust God with the outcome. Because if you look biblically, people who, they have outcomes that God creates for them, they trust his process for how he wants to do it. There is a huge gap between process and outcome for most biblical examples where God just fills in the gap. There's nothing innately about walking around Jericho 7 times that makes the walls weaker.
Right.
There's nothing innately there. It was the fact that they were willing to endure the process.
Well, and weren't they worshiping?
That's right. So
they were worshiping. So that was their essence.
Their essence was obedience to God. I'm not here to question, because they weren't even allowed to speak during that time. So it was like, I'm not going to question what he said. I'm merely going to go through this process. That it created an essence of obedience. And then God goes, okay, now I can trust you to do this for you. And they did. And it worked out really, really nicely.
And then he's the one who tore down the walls.
Yes, exactly. When they shout, they fall.
As opposed to, when they shout.
If I came to a person and said, hey, these walls need to go down.
They're like, okay, well, I guess we need to go order 1,000 hammers.
Well, when they sent people in, they sent 2 spies in.
Right.
And they realized,
to Rahab.
yeah, exactly. That was it. You got it right. It was very tricky, and it was a whole thing that was like, this is not going to go well for us.
Yeah, and they're like, the wall is so thick,
right?
There's no way it's going to come down.
That's right.
So even if they're like, so you could think about, and we're using this as allegory.
Sure.
But if it's like, oh man, I could get dynamite, and John Doherty has been famous for really prioritizing outcomes. And then I've tried to figure out processes in order to make outcomes.
Yeah.
What I am thankful for, to go back to your question, is the evolution of my perspective has become, John, let's focus on the essence.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And so that is what I've been attempting to do. I haven't.
Yeah, it's a lifelong thing.
Yeah. And there's only been there's some days. Today I'm accomplishing it so far.
Beautiful.
But it's only, it's before noon.
Right.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. It's a daily thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyways, that's what I'm thankful for. What are you thankful for?
I am thankful for, I want to take the extra 5 seconds to give a real thorough, I don't want to brush over it. I am thankful for the shift in perspective that happened this year that resulted in me accidentally stumbling on things that used to be my desired outcome. I used to want certain realities about myself, and to keep from being vague, I was like, I've been married 4 years.
Yeah.
Today's my 4-year
Wow,
anniversary.
congratulations.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And everything that I grew up with in terms of purity culture was about, don't think lustfully. And the number one way to think lustfully is to tell yourself not to think lustfully. And I remember being like, I have to be super, super godly and holy in order to earn a healthy marriage. I have to be super, and I know a lot of people feel this way too, where it's like, I have to just figure it out.
White knuckling?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was discipline, and it was discipline, and it was discipline. And then going this other route, this route of what is the essence of what we're dealing with here? What was God's intention for marriage? I stumbled into accidentally experiencing holiness. Versus being like, I have to do this. I have to make sure, don't look, don't say, don't, you know what I mean? And that's a reality. I know every person I've talked to, man and woman, have this experience right now because you're inundated with it. It's the number one reason I'm not on social media. I don't want an accumulation of softcore images or misinformed people who are willing to post their bodies online thinking it's innocent. It's like, it's innocent for you. It's an accumulation for me. I don't want that in the back of my mind all day. So I have, in the last 3-4 months, stumbled into this like, oh, I forgot. I forgot about that. I was so busy enjoying the point, the heart of the matter, the thing that God really wanted, the essence of like what my perspective on that whole topic of sexuality should be, that I forgot to be tempted. I understand in the charismatic evangelical world, what I'm saying sounds super arrogant and it sounds super, and this is what I was raised with. So it was like, I have to, but the relief of experiencing the lack of that, and obviously it's a matter of remaining careful and focusing on essence over and over and over. I'm not saying like, look, I figured it out, I'm good.
Right.
But I know a 14-year-old version of me, that's what he would hear. I'm very thankful for the wide open space I see in front of me of what's possible in a person's life with accidental holiness versus making it your, and it can apply beyond sexuality. It can apply to just about everything in a person's life. You feel like God gives you this task and you go, you have to figure it out. You have to, you better figure it out versus, well, God, what would you rather do? Because the idea with Jericho, to bring that example back, I believe if you read it accurately, they won that battle before they got there. Because when Joshua meets the angel and the angel goes, I am the commander of the Lord's army, Joshua bows before him and he goes, look, I'm not asking you to do, just take your shoes off. And then when they get there, God goes, oh, this is over. I already have given you this because you did what you did back there. And so I'm grateful for this new understanding that I will probably spend my whole life trying to communicate to everybody I know, which is that if you have that private moment with the Lord where you take your shoes off, you take off what you've taught me is the man-made thing, the thing that you rely on, the thing that keeps you distant from the holy ground he has for you. You'll win the other stuff and it will be less important. The more important thing is, are you and God having that private moment together? I'm very grateful. That is it's strange to say on a podcast, because it's like anyone could hear this now, but I'm actually very comfortable talking about it with anybody because I wish everyone knew about accidental holiness.
I love that.
That is not the consequence of discipline, but is genuinely the result of like, I became focused on being wholehearted with God.
Yeah.
And in so doing, it was like the usual things that would tempt didn't work anymore.
Wow.
And so I'm very grateful for the open space I see in front of me of what's potentially possible in the future as I apply that perspective to the rest of my life.
Thank you, Jesus.
There's a heck of an honest answer.
Well, I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah, of course. I didn't want to be like, I'm grateful for just my life, man.
Yeah.
It's like, why did you even ask?
No. But I'm glad that you're able to say that and you felt comfortable saying that on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully, Arvin's vulnerability can help your vulnerability. Those of you who are listening and watching.
Sure.
Of truly just being authentic and honest with those answers, because I think when you do, that thankfulness becomes more concreted.
Yeah.
I feel like if you are saying, man, my life, or, that's not a bad answer.
Sure.
But I can see it becoming anything that is surface will never be planted.
Yeah. That's good.
And so I think that if you give something surface, it won't be planted in you.
Yeah.
But if you give something that is deep from the roots,
totally,
then that's going to be planted in you. And that's becoming who Arvin is.
Sure.
The accidental holiness. And it's become being a part of who he is as he ministers to people or as he writes and does things for other people. that's going to be coming from his identity.
Yeah.
Because that is something that he has voiced and been intentional with his thankfulness on. But thank you for sharing that.
I'm thankful for you.
I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for
an
our friendship.
My earnest answer as well.
And this is another side dad joke. Anytime someone says, wait, what was it?
It was the thing yesterday.
When we were making
to
food.
be earnest about it, and it's Ernest Goes to Saturn or whatever those movies were.
We're just like, okay, so be earnest about it. And then I was like, and by earnest we mean Ernest P. Worrell. You know that guy, Ernest P. Worrell? If you don't know who he is, he put out tons of. He's the original Jim Carrey.
Yeah. Prior to the.
If you know who Jim Carrey is in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, I believe that there was a space between Jerry Lewis and Jim Carrey, and that space was Jim Varney, Ernest P. Worrell. Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Goes to Jail. Great movies, something that you could watch on Thanksgiving. Ernest, I know that you have passed and you're in heaven, but thanks for watching. We love you.
We're thankful for you.
Ernest and Erwin McManus. We love you. Thanks for listening. Happy Thanksgiving,
guys.
Bye.
See ya.